by month. But typically the entire activity set that an employee does to the manager is what is in his mind every time. And that's what he says, I am busy because I am delivering my work. Now he's delivering his work through the people, and those people basically are carrying out activities. So imagine if we are making sure that the system or the process, it is defined in such a manner that the manager is able to do a basic analysis, a basic feedback mechanism with the employee to be able to gather the activities that he's doing on a daily basis. And if I simplify it, let's say I give it a word that, again, very common word, competency gap analysis, which basically everybody knows about it, and which I would say forms the key matrix of HR analytics, competency gap analysis. What can he do about it? Again, we give a very difficult system and he says, I'm doing my job. I can't really basically spend time. Again, you have given me a performance management system and you have given me another competency gap analysis system. Now, what as leaders basically we need to simplify it is, we define a process which we know that actually it will take very, very minimal time for the manager to invest time, and it will really make sense for it. We communicate to the manager that if at all you follow this particular process, what is going to be the benefit that you will get, and how on earth basically your job gets simplified. So I would say basically that 5 people report to him. He's got a simple process where we have defined that there are 5 activities that person is going to do, which are basic competencies. We do not create an overwhelming competency framework, which is where probably we get ourselves drowned in. We create we limit 5 competencies from a behavioral and a technical standpoint, and he is giving an absolute rating. We're talking about performance management off, performance management off. Trust me, nobody can actually do performance management off, because then nobody basically will be able to measure anything, and HR analytics will not have any meaning. So basically I come back to the point that if we are saying there are minimal competency points that we are giving, and then there is an absolute rating defined on it, and the manager and employee can have a feedback mechanism. If employee does not do feedback, that means there is something wrong. And if he is having busy schedule, he would probably do it once in a month. Imagine that at the year end, if you're doing this infographic data, which is the basis of your performance management, rather than the manager basically goes into it and gives an absolute rating at the year end. So I'm giving you an example of how a simplified competency gap analysis instead of a performance management, again, it is a performance management process, but we are simplifying it. We are thinking from a perspective, employee doesn't get overwhelmed with the work, manager doesn't get overwhelmed with the work. We weave that particular problem statement into their work stream, and they are able to generate that particular data, which we will use as an HR analytics to measure the productivity of every single employee and every single manager. So when the manager basically goes to his supervisor, he will talk about it and say that, okay, I do not have a good team, that is why I could not deliver. Then the data basically at the end, which is basically coming from the grassroots level, can be used actually to generate that discussion. And that discussion is not about performance management. It is a discussion when a project is not on time, on budget, and that data basically gets meaningfully used. And if you look at it, this particular discussion, this particular meeting is an operational meeting. It is not an HR meeting. But the HR is able to give that data to that particular meeting. That's where we say that we increase the employee productivity, and that's where we say that we are actually the profit center, not our cost center. And that's where we say that we are the ones who do everything. Now again, when we say we are the ones, we take pride as HR leaders that we are running the human capital of the company. But again, what is the contribution that we are making to the main business and the main leaders? And that's where the leaders will feel that I want to give more budget to my HR leaders so that they are able to create that particular matrix. And again, unless and until they know what are we making for them, how are we making for them, they will never give it. So rather than basically thinking about that we need to have a good budget, and basically we have this problem statement of getting the budget or explaining it, or my employees are not using the system, my manager is not using the system, we just basically have to think through that, how can I make it simplified? And how can I make them use the system? And the only thing that on our mind as the stalwarts of HR analytics is that generating good data. I give this example, honestly speaking, if I gave an example of the invention in the beginning, I keep telling to my team actually, and when we are talking to our customers, that you ask us basically give us the insights of the industry. I tell you that I start as a template and give you an example. Honestly speaking, you can give me a better insight of the industry. Because invention will come from the pain problem. You are running a company and the problems are there. I give you an example of performance management. You can actually bring this to another example and another example, and all of them are the key in pain problems, and you have to basically just generate a simple process that will work in your organization.